recording. Okay, so we are on day 3 of Perek Chaf, Mishlei Perek Chaf Pasuk Chaf A, right? All right. Mokish Adam Yala Kodesh V'Achar Nadarim Lavaker. We're not going to translate it because that's the whole name of the game, right? So let's quickly review what we did yesterday because that was a good shot from the Meiri. So the Meiri says that I'm going to go back to the pasuk here. Meiri says Mokish Adam, a snare for a person, or sorry, a human snare, I think might be a better way to do it, which he says is midos, okay, which is bad midos. Yalla Kodesh corrupts or destroys the Kodesh part of a person, which is so let's put it this way. The snare part of a person destroys the Kodesh part of a person. So he says, what's the snare part of the person is bad midos. The Kodesh part of the person is the intellect. Okay, and we explained that by citing the Rabbeinu Yonah, who emphasized that when you give into your taiva, you can't give into your taiva without the consent of the intellect. So if you were doing something that is bad for you, once you indulge in that, then you have to justify it in your mind. Part of your mind is justifying it and saying it is good. So anytime you indulge in that part of you, then you are warping your intellect. So if you indulge in a bad midah, let's say, for example, let's say anger, right? Let's say you get angry. So anger is predicated on the notion that things must go my way, and if they don't, then it's bad and it's personal. So you're warping your intellectual apprehension of reality every time you give into anger. Okay, so that's a general problem. And then he says, "V'achar nadarim levaker," and you should. Did we settle on a good translation for that? I know the idea, but persist, right? Persist, right? Yeah. So, but what was the achar? And after nadarim, you should be persistent. I forgot if we said achar. Let's say his idea. His idea was that among the many remedies for bad midos, and there are many, he's not denying it, then nadarim are a good one because what they do is they preemptively remove you from the situation where your Yetzer Hara is going to be active, or where the Midah is going to be active. And he quotes a bunch of chazals that say that this is a good remedy. And he says, bikur is levakir is lashon hasmada. It means like persistence. So you can set up a persistent way to avoid giving into the bad midos and then to return to the middle path, which he said is the remedy. Yeah.
Did we explain why he's giving a technique instead of any other?
No, I don't think we did. And it seems like he wasn't the only one who did it. On day 1, when we went through that, it seems like a lot of them learned it as problem solution, like that's the structure of the pasuk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like if you look at the Targum, he says, Pachahu legavra dinadar lekucha. Okay, so he learns the first half in his own way, but he says, Ubasar hache chad yele nafshe, and afterwards. So if you're saying that this is a snare, and then you're saying, and afterwards, so either afterwards is going to be another consequence, or it's going to be something that you should do afterwards, So, and levaker as an infinitive might mean like, and afterwards, this is the thing to do, if I had to guess why he's getting it that way. Okay, so now let's do his second parush, right? I mentioned that one of the reasons I like the Meiri is that he is a digest of commentaries, right? So we're on page Tafkuf Ayin Vav. So 4 lines from the bottom. V'yesh mefarshim, some say, and a footnote says that this is the Sefer Shirashim of the Radak under Yalla, which is a good resource to know about because the Radak was, grammarian. Yalla kamo yedaber means to speak. Milashon Talmud sha'amru lo'i be'oraisa or le'i be'oraisa. So side note here with linguistics, this is an interesting thing with Mishlei, is that we assume that Mishlei is Hebrew, okay? But you'll see certain Mefarshim who will assume that certain Aramaic words had already evolved by the time Shlomo HaMelech wrote Mishlei, and they'll bring rayas from Gemara, like from Aramaic and the Gemara, or from the Targum, to show that this, or even from Arabic, which is interesting, to show that this was, a possible interpretation. And I don't know if they're saying that it was around in Shlomo's time, or if they're saying that when Ezra and Anshe Knesset HaGedolah canonized Torah B'Ksav, then they wrote it down. I don't know what their theory is. We do know that certain of Mishlei certain psukim in Mishlei, like from 25 and on, were written at the time of Chizkiyahu, which was much later than Shlomo, but I don't really know enough about linguistics to say. But that's why he's quoting Gemara, as I'm trying to explain that. So Yala means to speak. Klomar. So what does this mean now? Michshol hul adam sheyakdish eze hekdesh bediburo beneder o benedava. It is a snare for a person to consecrate any hekdesh, any sanctified property, through speech, with a vow or with a donation. The achar kach yivaker achar nadaro im yuchal hashlimo. And then afterwards to examine his neder to see if he can complete it. V'sheyachzor lahashivo achor, and to like look for a way to retract it. Okay. And I think this is part of the same interpretation. This is also a lesson that when a person starts a good activity or a good action, he should strive to complete it. And he should not worry about he shouldn't like let the effort or the expenditures deter him. Okay, so let's just get shot here. So first of all, how is he reading the pasuk? Mokish Adam Yala Kodesh Achri Nadarim Levaker. How is he translating it? Yeah.
It's enough for you to make a neder before you've asked the standard you can complete it or not.
Right. So it's funny. I like the way you used the word before, because that's good. But the Achar Nadarim Levaker. So I think he's stating it all as the problem, right? Which is it's a snare for a person to speak consecrations, right? And then to like how is it levaker? I mean, it's not, second guess is the wrong word. Like have misgivings is the wrong word. Like look for a way out, and then after his nadarim, and afterwards to look for a way out of his nadarim, right? Maybe, or to look for a way out of fulfilling them. In other words, because he's stating the problem is that example that I would give, and I feel like I've heard this from Gabayan in Shul, that people get called up to the Torah, they make all these donations, and then like the Gabbai has to like chase after them during the week to like get them to pay, and like a lot of these people just don't follow through on their donations, and that's another pasuk in there's no Tanakh. Actually, keep asking me that, Chumash. Just easier if I find it here. This is a pasuk in Koheles. See if I can find it here. Yeah. It's pasuk in Perek Hey, pasukim 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Kasher tidor neder lelokim, when you make a vow to God, al ta'acher l'shalmo, do not delay in paying it. In chayfetz baksilin, God has no desire in fools. Okay, interesting application of fool. Each asher tidor shalem. Whatever it is that you vow, you should pay. And then he says, tov asher lo tidor mishitidor v'lo tishalem. Better that you should not make a vow than that you should make a vow and not pay. Okay, so this is like a big problem, is that people make vows because you feel like you are actually doing something when you make the commitment, but you haven't done anything yet. In fact, arguably you've done worse than it could be, end up being worse than not doing anything, because you're setting up the expectation that you're going to do something and feeling like you've done it, and you like are basically like living in your head, and like patting yourself on the back for like being such a good person to donate all this money, and you haven't actually done it yet. Yeah.
No thing.
What?
One of the things I thought you better bust actually won't pull that. With one of the things that I said about how like actually following through on something.
Yeah.
Like, you start to do it and then just like we saying like keeping that focus, like going through it. If you see like a value in this,
Yeah.
like continue.
Yeah. It can apply
I don't
to.
think this is what DMS was thinking about here, but
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, but it's a good point though with the when he says Nadarim and Hekdesh, like he's clearly using those as examples, but that's why he extends it to any Maseh HaTov, So I don't know if this applies, but I actually had a case of this that was interesting. I forgot if I sent this in any chat, but so I'm a big fan of conducting experiments in tshuva, experiments in habits, and I like setting a time limit on the experiments. Like I'm going to do an experiment for 2 weeks or for 30 days, So many times I will I will tell someone, whether it's a chavrusa or a friend or whatever, that I'm going to engage in an experiment, and I do it as a way of like accountability. You know, like if I say it, then I will. I'm more likely to follow through with it. You know, so there was one experiment that I did that part of the experiment was contingent on people not knowing about it. So I like if people knew about it, then it would affect the results of the experiment. So I engaged in the experiment for 30 days, and then I announced it and said, I've done this for 30 days, you know? So when I did that, then my chavrusa Levi showed a study or an article about how people who voice their commitments will often, like statistically, get lower numbers in terms of following through with them than people who don't voice their commitments. And the reason why is because of what I just said, is you feel like you've already done it when you say it, you know? So it is a double-edged sword, because I think there is a reality to having accountability, you know, but then you're also giving into this part of yourself where you feel like you're actually doing something by verbalizing it. Yeah.
Just another something that I was thinking about as you're saying that, with the idea you said on doing things 100 times versus 101 times.
Yeah.
I think that's all right.
Right.
So if you're doing it just to tell someone, like,
right.
for say,
Yeah.
then you're not going to actually.
Okay, good. So that's actually a point.
So well.
That's an opening, which is that the reason why part of the reason why you feel like you've already done it is because there's ego attached to it. You know, that I am the type of person who does this, or I have reached this certain milestone, or I will be the type of person who does this. So one way that you can, like, not necessarily get out of it, but in certain cases is like there are ways to, let's see if I can give an analogy here. There are ways to to announce goals such that you set yourself up for accountability, but without highlighting the thing that satisfies your ego. You know, like I'll just say, like, not the details of my experiment that I'm talking about. So my experiment had to do with the way I use social media. And so I did this thing for 30 days without telling people I was going to do it. I basically changed the way I used Facebook. And then the reason why I couldn't say it beforehand is that people would notice that I was doing it. I was changing my posting habits. And I wanted to see if people would notice, you know, like, you know, if I could like change it without people noticing. And then I announced, I said, there are other changes that I'm going to be doing, but I'm not going to announce them until after I've done them. So what that did is it set up accountability for me, in the sense that, like, I've announced to the world that I have another goal, but I haven't said the particulars, so I didn't get the ego gratification, you know? Yeah.
How does it help with accountability?
It helps with accountability because now people can say, well, like I think I said, like, I would reveal it. I don't know if I said the specific amount of time, but like people could say, like, well, you know, you said that you were going to like do something else. Like, what was it? You know? So like
After a certain amount of time.
After a certain amount of time. Yeah. You know? So like I could, again, it's a very narrow area, but I could see that in, like, let's say, like you tell someone, you know, that you have, let's say, like, you're a writer, and you tell someone, like, there's a big project on the way, but you don't specify, I'm going to write a novel, you know, or whatever. And so you are setting up the expectations, but just not with a particular, like, ego accomplishment. So you can't take solace in the fact that, or credit for the fact that, oh, I've declared my intention to write another novel, you know, very niche area. Yeah. Okay. So this, I think, was the closest one to the way we were reading it, because we were trying to say that the neder itself is the snare. Right, so he's using that as an example. Okay, are we good with this? Should we go with another one? Anything else that we need to do here? Right, I think it's fairly straightforward. Yeah.
Question on the first thing from Meiri.
Yeah.
When he was talking about setting up these, like setting up the narrative and like making it so you can follow through on those.
Yeah.
I think as before, I don't know if we had an answer, but does it actually work?
Oh, right. That's a good question.
Especially for someone who's already been corrupted by certain things.
Yeah. So the I like the what do you call the muscle of I forgot where I first heard this. The muscle of the rider on the elephant. I saw this in the book Switch by Chip and Dan Heath, which is about how to make changes in your life. And so the muscle he uses for behavior change is, imagine a rider on top of an elephant that's going on a path. Okay. And the question is, how does he change where the elephant is going? Okay. So there are 3 ways that you can change the direction of the elephant. The first is rider-based strategies, where the rider will like, I don't know, like hit the elephant or like try to tell the elephant like go this way, go that way. That's not going to be very effective. It can work, but it's not the most effective way. Second way is if the elephant itself is motivated to go in another way. So if it sees, what do elephants eat? Peanuts in all the cartoons. So if the elephant sees like a bunch of peanuts on this, in one direction, he will go there despite what the rider wants him to do, right? Of course, roasted peanuts occur in nature. It's obvious. Okay. But then what is the easiest way to get the elephant to go somewhere? Well, if the path goes in a certain direction, the elephant will follow the path. If it's on the path, if like, let's say like there's like trees on the other sides, so too in decision making, the muscle is, the rider is a muscle for the intellect, the elephant is a muscle for the emotions, and the path is the muscle for the habits and routines you set up in the external world. So changing your behavior through purely intellectual means can work, but it's the least effective of all the three strategies. Changing your behavior through emotional things, whether through psychology or through like your motivations or through like incentives, disincentives and stuff, that is much more effective. But then setting up like default routines and circumstances, to be able to change is the easiest way. So classic example, let's take dieting, right? So least effective way to diet is you research like why this is good for you and like why this is bad for you, and like you bank on your knowledge affecting your habits. That's just not going to work in most cases. If someone says, oh, this food is poison, you probably won't eat it. Or if someone says, oh, this like increases inflammation and like inflammation is bad, that's just not going to motivate you. Okay. Second way is through changing your affecting your desires. So there's, it seems like a very effective way to eat healthier food is find healthy food that tastes good, that you actually enjoy eating, and do that. But the most effective method is through changing your circumstances. So let's say, for example, if you find yourself continuously, reaching into the pantry to snack on junk food, don't buy the junk food so that you're just removing it from your house, or if you have the junk food in your house, let's say like you're not in control of it, you have a family or whatever, so put it in a location where it's not like right there on the table or right there in front of you, and same thing with the positive thing. Like let's say you want to have healthy foods or healthy lunches, but you find that the effort to prepare the food is a deterrent. So maybe you should on Sunday prepare all the food that you're going to have for the next couple of days and set it up there so you can just reach into the refrigerator and grab it when you're going to lunch, So like set up your environment in a way that is conducive to these changes. And that's why Tiny Habits and Atomic Habits and books like that are good. Okay, so answering your question, what a neder does is it is designed to change the circumstances to prevent you from even getting into the situation where you are tempted to, where you awaken the desire. So let's say like the Rambam's examples, if a person wants to make a neder to not eat meat, so then they will just not buy meat or not be in situations where people are eating meat, or if they don't want to get drunk, they won't go to a bar. Like I think neder is a device that fits into that third category, so in that sense, it does work. Now, the two problems are, well, I guess maybe it's one problem, is there are people who will not be good at, like, they won't be good at being disciplined about their nadarim. So they'll set up a fence, but then they'll just like barge through the fence, So like for example, like one technique that I used to suggest to my students in study skills when they're having a hard time studying is, and this works for me, is you just turn off the internet. You go into airplane mode on your computer and on your phone, Now, for me, that works because it's an extra step to have to turn it off of airplane mode. Some people, though, yeah, right. For some people, though, they can just easily change it. So for them, I say, unplug, again, assuming like you're not affecting your whole household, unplug the router, So if it's in another room, so then you have to get up and go to another room. Some people though are going to get up and go to another room. So for those people, give your phone. I say as soon as give your phone to your mom and say, don't let me have this until I study for an hour. So like there are varying things that areas where you need to exercise self-control even within the realm of these like, circumstantial or nadarim based like things. Yeah.
He's talking here about hektish,
right? David was asking about the previous pirush, right?
Oh,
yeah, about how nadarim are a good strategy. It's funny, by the way, that the previous one was saying that nadarim are good, and this is saying nadarim are a mikshal. Yeah.
Second question.
Yeah.
What is this general idea though, that it's good to follow through and don't be concerned about the prayer?
Yeah. So
maybe you should be sometimes.
Right. So I have to understand this, that he means once you have made the decision to emergency vehicles, once you have done the evaluation and made the commitment to the good decision, or to the decision to do the good activity, then you shouldn't let these things be a deterrent. Meaning, I can't believe I don't think he's saying like jump into good commitments and just don't worry about the costs, because that's just not rational,
Right. So it's pre-evaluated.
It's pre-evaluated. Yeah, that's what I think. And the reason why I think that is because that's what he says about the nadarim, right? That you should it's a mikshal to make this commitment and then to look and see whether you can complete it.
It's like the other half of the puzzle.
Yes, right. Yeah, right. Yeah. So do we have a good translation now for the other half? Oh, so we were saying that it's a mikshal to make these commitments to hekdesh, and then afterwards to see whether you can follow through with your commitment. Right. The whole thing is the mikshal. Yeah. Okay. I think he has one more, right? Yeah. Next one. Some say that this is a Torah idea, a Torah lesson. Upirusho yala lashon blia. That yala is a lesson of swallowing or consuming. Vishasu vela'u in Ovadia, because obviously we all know became an Ovadia. Kolel kol davar iser v'harchaka hein shal hekdesh kamashma'u hein harchaka mitzad acher. So this is including any iser that of distancing yourself from something, whether it's hekdesh, as the pasuk implies, or any other harchaka. For example, in kashrus, Isrei bia, whatever. Pentikdash, the el kol ma'achal hekdesh. Okay, fine. V'hakavana, and what's the intent? Mokesh adam hu shiyochel davar iser. It is a snare for a person to consume something that is usher. The achar kach yishtadol letzorach kaparaso lasos nadarim u'nadavos. And then afterwards to strive for atonement needs to make nadarim and nadavos. Matanos utstakos ushar mitzvos, gifts and charities and other mitzvos. V'yachshov sheha'avera niskapra b'kiyum osa mitzvah. This is a classic mistake. And to think that the avera will be atoned for by fulfilling a mitzvah. The alzeh amruzal. So this is what Chazal mean when they say asher lo yikach shochad. It says that God does not take bribes. Now the question is, what do you mean? I mean, of course God doesn't take bribes. You're gonna like take $100 bill and like throw it into the Shemaim? Like, what are you, the people who built the Migdal according to Rashi? Yeah, I'm giving shir on that in an hour. So what does it mean? So Chazal say, Zeh shochad mitzvos. It's bribing God with mitzvos. Okay. Klomar, Shim asa avera, v'asa mitzvah kenegda, v'kavana she's kaperlo osa avera, inam skavelas lo. So let's say you do an avera, and then you do a mitzvah in order to, with the intent that it'll make up for that avera that you did. Okay. That's what we mean by bribes. Ella sheyigmol lemitzvah be'es min ha'itim v'ya'anesh lavera karoilo. Okay, rather God will reward the mitzvah. Will reward you for doing the mitzvah. I don't know what it means at one of the times, and he'll punish the avera in a way that's proper for it. There's a great member of Chazal. I want to say that Sforno quotes it on this pasuk.
Yes.
Yeah, in mitzvah mechabe avera. Yeah, it's a great one, right? A mitzvah cannot extinguish an avera. So like it's the same thought here. Pass. We're on this page. Yeah, pass it down. Yeah. So what can we just like define the havamina? Because I can't speak for you. I've definitely felt this way. Like you find yourself lax in a certain area of halakha, so then you do certain mitzvos and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm good. Yeah.
Yes, it's like the feeling that mitzvahs is just like a point system.
Yes, I think so.
Or we can like net it out or net it, make it more positive.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yes. I think that's exactly it. Is that you think that mitzvahs are a point system, and that as long as you like find some way to like adjust the score, then you're good. And again, it's not like I'm not blaming Chazal for this, but there are statements in Chazal that do contribute to this type of thinking, like the whole phenomenon of weighing zechuyos and avonos. Like now the Rambam says we don't know, or Chazal themselves say we don't know the weight of the zechuyos and avonos, and it's based on quality, not quantity. You can have one avera that outweighs many mitzvos and vice versa. So they also try to warn us against that. But yeah, it's based on a point system, as opposed to. So how would you? So the answer is it's not a point system, right? But how would you phrase the actual reality to explain to someone, like let's say someone was laboring under this this notion. You can't just say it's not a point system, right? So how would you explain to them why a mitzvah cannot extinguish an avera, or why you can't atone for averas through mitzvahs? Yeah.
I guess every single action you do has a consequence.
Yeah.
So you can't just erase the consequence by doing some other consequence.
Exactly. Well said, right? So I'm just going to flesh it out with particulars from the Ramban and the Rambam, which is, I think both the Ramban and the Rambam say that all mitzvos and averos are commanded for three types of reasons. So either for intellectual perfection, to teach or reinforce a true idea or remove a false idea. Second is for midos, to instill a good midah or remove a bad midah. And three is to promote behaviors of chesed, tzedakah, mishpat in society, or to remove injustice and the opposites of those. So let's say you do an avera. Let's say example he gives. Let's say you eat non-kosher food, right? So that's been a breach in your kedusha, right? That you've given in. So there are real facts, right? You've given into your animalistic desires, right? So to atone for it, you go and give tzedakah, right? Or you learn Torah. Well, that's very nice. Tzedakah has its benefits in terms of your perfection, and learning Torah has benefits in terms of that. But the realm of the consequences that you've generated and the realm of the benefits that you've gotten are two separate realms. And even if they're in the same realm, you still have made yourself, you've harmed your perfection in a specific way, and that's not necessarily going to line up with the remedy that you do. Unless it does, in which case we call that tshuva, like let's say you steal from someone and then you give it back. That's like the most literal example, so then that actually is atoning, or at least it's part of the atonement process. Yeah, but just as a matter of policy, mitzvahs and averos don't work like this, where you could just up your mitzvah count to make the avera count not as bad. Yeah.
I don't know if this is excessive, but it's also saying here that schar and ownish doesn't work that way.
Right, that's also true, right?
It's not even nets ownish is schar.
Right, yeah, that's a good point, right? So whether it's schar ownish in terms of, so we were talking about schar ownish now in terms of consequences. That's why I was thinking about that. But in terms of brachos and klalos, in terms of how it affects, whatever other realms of hashgacha are related in terms of olam haba, then each thing has its own benefits and consequences. So you're not going to just, they're not all uniform, in points. Okay, so good Meiri's, right? Yeah. Okay, you want to look at someone else just to see what we get? We have 15 minutes. Let's look at the Rabbeinu Yonah. So Rabbeinu Yonah ties this to the previous Pasuk. Okay, let's just quickly look at the previous Pasuk. Previous Pasuk was the footsteps one. Me Hashem mitzadi gaver v'adam ma yavin darko. From Hashem are the steps of man. But man, what does he understand of his way? Now, what did Rabbeinu Yonah say there? So he said that, let's just reread it because it's short. Once it said above, after saying above, that you should hope to Hashem to save you from all of the things that you're afraid of. It says hope to Hashem. It says here you should cast your burdens onto Hashem in terms of making your ways succeed and blessing your actions. If you go out into the way, or you take a sea voyage for livelihood purposes, many times you'll suffer a loss in exchange for what you hoped for. When you walk securely, you might encounter chance occurrences and effects. Therefore, don't rely on your own understanding. Rather, place all your trust in Hashem. We said there are many factors that you don't know about. So if you walk forward with this absolute certainty that it's going to go the way that you planned, then you're going to make more mistakes. And therefore, you should trust in Hashem through tefillah, through whatever it is that you're trusting in Hashem, that His will happen, even if that's not in line with the way you want things to go. Okay, yeah.
Most interesting as far as last time continuing.
Yeah.
If you're like, what types of like paths you're saying off for yourself? If you're trying to set out, say like on the negative, let's say someone just planted a vineyard, like that's what their objective is, like their new vineyard. Yeah. Then their steps are going to get messed up. Yeah. Things are going to be more problematic. Right.
So meaning in other words, that the specific ways in which you set up your mind to be preoccupied with your own.
That self mess you up.
That'll mess you up, right? Okay. So now let's see how he takes our thing. Mokish Adam Yala Kodesh V'Achron Nadarim Levaker. Nismach le'inyan mash amar v'adam ma yavin darko. So this is attached to the previous pasuk. A person cannot guard himself against the snares of the path and obstacles. Rak yimsor nafsho al Hashem. He should give his soul over to Hashem, or entrust his soul to Hashem. Achin, and thus hamokshim shehu yachol hishamer mehem. Halohima mokshe hachet. So which mokshim can you guard yourself from? From the mokshe hachet, from the snares of sin. If you go on a journey to make livelihood, in the land, meaning not across the sea, you should engage in introspection in your ways and analyze. If there's a sin in your hand, you should distance yourself from it. Kimokish adam yala kodesh, because the snare of a person yala kodesh. So let's see how he translates that. Im yizkor kima'al v'nehen min hekdesh. Did not expect him to go this way. If he committed a sin of me'ila, literally, of deriving benefit from hekdesh, yashuv ad Hashem, he should do tshuva to Hashem. He's talking about literal hekdesh here. And if he committed a sin of me'ila, he should pay the principal amount plus a fifth. Okay. Let's finish reading it. I had a different understanding of where he was going. I guess I couldn't predict it. So you should also see, did I make a neder to Hashem and not pay it? Nadarim are also a snare for a person if he vows and doesn't pay. And from these snares, those you can guard from. Therefore, he should be afraid for his soul, lest they trip him up and he finds a punishment. Okay, now he's tying it back. Maybe if he violated a neder or he committed me'ila with hekdesh in regards out of a desire for money, yovad mamono b'inyan ra, then his money will be lost in a bad way. So too, if he has an iniquity in his hand, yashuv minachamas asher b'kapav, he should return the stolen thing that that is in his hand. The ikra kavanas hamikra, the main idea of the pasuk, lahasir sheyachapis adam drachav, is that you should investigate your ways. It's possible that a person made a neder and didn't remember it. Therefore, he should check after his own nadarim. It also shows that comes to teach that God measures out measure for measure, as we explained. Okay, so here's the general thing he's saying. The previous pasuk said there are external obstacles and snares that you should be aware of and not assume that you're just going to avoid them, and that's in Hashem's control. Okay. Our pasuk, so you can't do anything about those. I mean, again, presuming that you've already been following Mishlei and try to avoid them, but there are things that are unforeseeable. That was the context of the last pasuk. So that takes care of external snares. But there is one category of snares that you can control, which is your own chatayim. Okay, and that's not dependent on Hashem. In fact, it's davka hakol b'dei shemayim chutz mi'yira shemayim, right? All the external stuff is in God's hands, but your own perfection is in your own Yiras Shamayim is in your own hands. So what you should do is constantly investigate your own actions and see if you have done averos that could cause a mida keneged mida onesh in the endeavor that you set out to do. So he's going with his example of you're going out to make money, you know? So you don't know if there's some external circumstance that could jeopardize your ability to make money, like a pandemic that could close your school down and make you lose your job, right? Okay, but you can look to yourself and say, do I have any avonos that that will cause me to suffer consequences that are mida k'neged mida? So for example, am I relating to this job or to money or to people in a way that is going to lead to a hefsed, to a loss in the thing I'm trying to obtain, you know? And that I can do tshuva on now and hopefully avoid being, I was gonna say zochet to that punishment, roy for that punishment, you know? Yeah.
He seems to be specifying like halachic ways of doing things.
Yeah, so it sounds like even he, like the Meiri, is just using the Nedarim and Hekdesh as examples, because when he circles back and says Ikar HaKavana is Lahazir Shechabes Adam Drachav, it sounds like he's just using it as treating the pasuk as giving examples, you know, and you know, it sounds like he's bothered by, or not bothered by. He and Meiri are both responding to the specificity in the psukim, which is weird. Like if you say Kodesh is Hekdesh and Nedarim are like literal Nedarim, why is Mishlei so specific? Like Mishlei doesn't usually talk about mitzvos this way, you know, like highlighting specific, especially like Bein Adam Lamakom mitzvos, you know? So it is weird that it's doing that. So I think that's why these Mefarshim take it as either examples of Darchei Tshuva, examples of like Michsholim, or examples of pitfalls that people get into for midos-based reasons, you know? So yeah, I think that's what they're responding to there. Yeah. Okay, good. I think that is good. I don't recall when I went through the Mefarshim 2 days ago, seeing anything else that either we could understand readily or that was along our lines. So if it's okay with you, we could just stop here for today. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, good. So there's 3 days on the pasuk, but I think we got ideas out of it. So that was pretty good. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.